Let's plan out our Q4 business strategy, shall we? In this video or a podcast episode, if you're listening to the audio version, I'm going to walk you through my own Q4 business strategy for both of my businesses. I'm going to kind of talk you through each step of the process that I use, that I take my High Profit Society clients through every single quarter to map out our priorities for the upcoming quarter. I actually did this sort of behind the scenes video for the first time back in Q3. And I had a bunch of you give me good feedback that it was helpful to hear, and so I'm gonna try it again. I do agree, I think it's helpful for me too, to hear what other people are doing, even if their businesses and their strategies are not exactly the same as mine. I do think it's helpful to hear how other people's brain works, what strategies they're trying, what's working in their businesses, what trends they're seeing, just so I can kind of compare to my own. So your strategy may not be exactly like mine, and that's totally fine. You can also use this to kind of walk through and do your own, reflection, goal setting, and planning exercise at the same time as me. Last quarter, I did do a more vlog style, like plan with me episode, which was really fun. This quarter, interestingly, I really did not have time to do a full CEO day to do my planning, which is my preference. But I ended up just kind of squeezing it in a few hours here and there because I just didn't have as much time to sit down and do a whole day this quarter. So at least I got it done. I will say for this quarter's planning session in the High Profit Society, I made a new workbook to go with our quarterly planning, and it was clutch. It was so helpful for me to have it. Like I literally pulled it up on my phone, and I still like to handwrite my stuff down, but having the prompts there so I didn't have to remember for myself was really nice. So I'm saying thank you to myself. So the first part of my planning process is to reflect back on the last quarter, think about my wins, figure out what worked, what didn't work, so that I can come up with ideas for things that I want to continue doing, I want to stop doing, and just really coming from a place of being more data-driven and informed about the next steps that I'm taking. Here are my wins from Q4, and interestingly, one of these just changed 2 days ago. And so you're going to hear me also probably process this out loud a little bit, changes that I'm going to have to make to this plan that I just did a couple weeks ago because one of these things changed. And I'll explain here in a second. So my biggest wins from Q3 2024 is that I took off 33 days from Young & Co. I did a separate video about taking a month off, but I really was able to disconnect fully, I'd say like 95% of the way, and not step in and do any work or client communications. I did answer a couple of team questions. I had to jump in and run payroll, but overall I took off a full month, and number one, I needed a break. We acquired another accounting firm a little over a year ago. Honestly, since then, I have felt like I have just been going full steam ahead. I realized I don't take as much time off throughout the year if I don't have a trip planned or something. And so this was a really nice break for me, just to be able to step away. And then also I wanted to see how things would go with me being gone for a full month. And I would say they went better than I thought they would. There were definitely some things that I saw that happen while I was out that, we need to change, we need to improve, but now we have the information, we know about it because things came to light because I forced myself out of the processes. And so now we can fix it. During my time off, we took a family vacation. I did a trip to Key West for work stuff, for like my own coaching stuff. And then we did a couple of little day trips and adventures. One of my other biggest wins that I wrote down is that I came up with 2 new one-on-one offers for my personal brand. I don't like to call it my coaching business because I don't really view it as coaching. It's more of like consulting, teaching, mentorship. I don't know if there's a word for that. I hesitated for a long time to do one-on-one work over there because I had a lot of one-on-one meetings already on the Young & Co. side of the house. And in Q3, one of my priorities was to basically train up and hand off most of the CFO meetings to a team member who I had just promoted to being a virtual CFO. And so I did that in Q3, which then enabled me to free up a lot of time to do other things. Because I had that freed up, it enabled me to think about how I wanted to work with clients one-on-one in more of a mentorship and consulting capacity. And so I came up with an 8-week one-on-one intensive and then a profit share model both of which I closed clients in and kind of went through and tested out or am testing out for the profit share model. I'm really excited about these. I think these will be really great. And so I'm excited to see where they go. Some of my other wins were on the health front. I worked on some of my own like movement goals. I got some extensive lab work done. I just took care of some things on that side of my life that I think are really helpful. My team member who got promoted, taking over pretty much fully the CFO work, which was great. I also wrote down that when I go back to my CEO scorecard, my reach on a weekly basis, the number of people that I'm reaching doubled and my overall audience grew 10%. I would like the audience growth to be higher as a percentage of reach, but either way, I think that it was really helpful for me to go back and look at my metrics from the quarter for all the different channels and things, the content that I decided to prioritize and see what the results were. And I will tell you that on the reach front, YouTube has been one of the best channels for me in terms of consistency of reaching new people. TikTok also has a pretty high reach, but we aren't really creating a ton of original content for TikTok. I'm more just reposting things over there to see what happens because I figure why not? And I will say the conversion to followers on TikTok has not been as good, probably because we're not creating customized content or content that people really want to consume over on TikTok. So all of this is just really interesting data. Now I'm going to revisit my goals that I set. So for Q3 on the revenue side, we came in right at the revenue goal that I wanted to hit on the Young & Co side. And so I was happy with that. Admittedly, I did set that goal knowing over the summertime it could be a little bit slower. We ended up kind of killing it on bringing in new clients in Young & Co for our monthly offers. Even though it was a slow time, we ended up adding like $12,000 a month in recurring revenue. We did have a couple of other clients drop off, which is normal because they were either scaling back or selling their businesses, just things like that. We ended up hitting the revenue goal. So I was happy with that. And then on my personal brand side, in terms of cash revenue, I didn't hit as much as I would have liked, but I actually exceeded the goal for booked revenue. Clients who signed up for new things and, I'll receive, payments for over the coming months. I've exceeded that goal, even though I didn't hit the cash goal I wanted in Q3. I'm kind of happy with it because I like booking stuff out for the future. That always makes me happy. In the business, some of the goals that I had prioritized from last quarter was to work on my team on Young & Co. And this is the one thing that changed literally 2 days ago. So I did do, the training for the team member who took on the CFO work. What did not work, actually had this as a win, is we created a new tax strategist role for somebody who was going to be working with our higher level clients as that sort of big picture tax person, because I have still been doing a good bit of that work. We actually found somebody who I was really excited about. And then 2 days ago, right after we started getting her integrated with some of our clients, she decided that she was going to take a job elsewhere. And so we're kind of back to the drawing board on that front. So I had that goal checked off. I had it as a win. And then I just got hit with that. And so that's going to have to be an adjustment that I make. In terms of the High Profit Society and my own personal, content and email list, one of my goals was to have at least 200 people go through my funnel, and we ended up having 220 downloads. And so I'll take that as a win. I wanted to do that because I wanted to test it out and get some good data. And I did get some good data that is going to then inform what I do in Q4. The one thing that I did not do as well is I did not do any pitching. One of my goals has been for a while to do more podcast pitching and speaker pitching, and I didn't do any of it, partly because when I was out for a month, I just didn't feel like doing anything. Like, I was surprised at how little I wanted to even think about any of it at all, which is probably a good thing that I was able to take a break. And then when I got back, honestly, I was pretty busy just trying to catch up from being gone, from trying to implement some of the things that we saw needed to be implemented when I was out. And so that one fell kind of to the side. And then the other business goal that I had was I wanted to relaunch or revamp my Scaling Made Simple program, which I did. I still have some filming to do and things for that because I decided to put together a whole bunch of new templates for people on the high ticket funnel marketing and sales process for high ticket offers, which I really am obsessed with. It's probably one of the best things I've done, but I am really proud. I decided to do that several months back and we ended up recreating that, revamping the whole program and getting that launched. On the personal side, I already said I did some work around health stuff, which was really important. I didn't do as much cardio workouts as I wanted to after I got back from vacation because I got sucked into work and I fell back onto my old habits. But I do still have a personal trainer 3 times a week and it helps me work out consistently having that. And so I've maintained that for over a year and I probably will always maintain it because I find that it is the only thing that really keeps me accountable. And so I'm going to take that knowledge into setting my Q4 goals in terms of my own personal health. I also traveled in Q3, which was fun. I did not really spend a ton of time on my house in Q3. That was one of my goals, was to start to declutter because it just feels like I'm feeling like we need to change some things around and I want to start by clearing the slate. I really did not spend a ton of time doing it. And I think what I decided is that it came down to not having a routine created and really not getting home early enough because I have to do daycare or preschool pickup, not getting home early enough in the afternoons to really have time to dig into that. And it was taking away from my family time, which is really important to me. So kind of going back to the drawing board in terms of when I can fit that routine into my daily schedule. So here are some of the things that I said worked well in Q3: delegating, simplifying, kind of streamlining all of the offers that we have between Young & Co. and my personal brand, and just taking it down, offering less things has worked really well and I think will continue to work. I had a decent amount of interest in my one-on-one mentorship offer, which is really fun. Batching worked really well for me, both for my podcast and any social media content. Taking time off obviously worked. And then I wrote down weekly pay. I'll explain this in another podcast episode. I switched up how I pay myself in Q3 for my businesses, and I really like it. And so I'm kind of still testing out a few things, but I did write down that it worked well, and I'll share more once I sort of nail down the exact process. So what I wrote down that did not work was some of my conversion rates were fine, but I would like them to be a little bit higher. And so what I think I need to figure out is just across the board, testing out different messaging and pieces of content and things to see what is going to resonate better with people. On the Young & Co. side, we actually had more monthly CFO and accounting revenue and less tax revenue for various reasons. So my forecast was kind of off from that. So going into Q4, I actually decided to change up our entire tax offer over there and start treating it like its own separate business. One of the things that I did while I was off, which maybe I shouldn't do this while I was off, but I went through and I broke out Young & Co. between our monthly CFO clients and tax clients. And I split out our whole P&L to see the 2 business lines. This is something that I would have done for a CFO client. It's one of the first things we would have done when a client has multiple business lines. The fact that I never took the time to do it for myself is kind of funny, kind of ironic, but I finally took the time to do it. And it just made me see okay, this business line is working really well. This business line, we can do some things on both sides. I decided that by splitting them out, it makes it easier to sort of streamline and sort of message the offers to be more targeted at the ideal client. And so I'm really excited about where that is going to go in Q4. I also found that after I got back from my vacation, I very quickly went back into what I felt was a high stress level, a level of nervous system activation. I think that there's just a lot of changes going on, lots of things in flux and other things I'm still sort of sitting with and trying to understand why did I feel so activated? Why have I over the last couple of months? I actually just hired a therapist again for the first time in a while because I just need some help processing through what is going on in my mind that's making me feel this way, because I felt that I was at a very high stress level pretty much every day that I was at work, and this is not something that I want to keep doing. So one of the other things that I always like to ask myself is, what is the main focus area that I want to prioritize going into the upcoming quarter, after kind of reviewing what worked, what didn't work, and reflecting on the quarter, I decided that my main focus area for Q4 is going to be in visibility and lead generation in both businesses. So I've been leaning very heavily into building out more of a marketing funnel and process for both businesses. So the next thing that I do in the planning process is set goals. So I usually start with financial goals first. And so what I did is for each business, I calculated what is my sales goal for the quarter in total. I like to think about what monthly numbers am I hitting, but also what I want to hit in total for the quarter, so that if things do fluctuate, I don't necessarily stress about it too much, as long as I know I'm on track for the quarter as a whole. And so what I found is that on the Young & Co side, I would like to hit, in order to hit the profit goals that I want, I would like to add about $30,000 to $40,000 in total revenue for the entire quarter. And that is the gap between my total sales goal and what we already have booked for the quarter. Interestingly, between the time I wrote this and now, in this past week, we sent out something like 9 or 10 proposals, including another $10K a month in recurring revenue from CFO work. So I feel pretty confident already in hitting most of these numbers without having to do a ton of marketing. But I still, having split out the business lines and being able to see the goals between both sides of that business, I do really want to prioritize, hitting certain sales goals for each one's, really building out a marketing process for the tax side of the business, which I have really never prioritized before, because I've always just kind of took on tax work as people come to me. And now that I'm sort of shifting to view that offer, which I really love our new updated offer. I think it's going to be really great. But now that I'm switching to viewing that offer and that business as its own standalone, I now have sales goals that I want to hit and prioritize. And then for my personal brand, I really don't need to book any sales. And the great thing about growing that business, one of my favorite things, is that while I love it and while I'm obsessed with what I'm doing and I'm so excited about building out those offers even more and working with clients even longer, especially, taking on a private client and bringing new clients into the High Profit Society. I love that because I have a business that's already paying all the bills, I can put no pressure over there for growth, which gives me more room to play with things and test things out and just not have the pressure, which makes it fun. Basically, when I know my sales goal, I then map out, okay, marketing for the offers that I want to sell. What do I need to make sure that I build out step by step, from messaging and branding through visibility, lead magnet downloads, nurture sequences, all of that. Like, what goals do I need to hit? And so I kind of mapped those out and just make sure I don't have any holes in the process, or, since I want to put some marketing around our tax offer, I did just build out a new lead magnet email sequence, and then we have a whole new promotion strategy coming up. And so I kind of just map those things out all in one place. And I do all of that so that I can then brain dump all of my goals, everything that I have on my mind that I'm working toward, and just kind of organize them into this like 1-page goals sheet. Like, I like to prioritize the top 3 to 5 business goals, because I find if you try to do more than that, you're probably going to set yourself up for failure. And even within those 3 to 5, I try to have at least 1 to 2 that I'm delegating to someone on my team, so I don't actually have to be the one to do it, or things that I am already doing, I just want to improve, so that I'm not trying to build 5 new habits or 5 new routines or do 5 new projects, because that's just not, you're just not going to be able to do all of that. So the goals that I set for Q4, kind of taking all of that into consideration, prioritizing YouTube and podcast growth. I've been posting my podcast for the last 6 months or so as a video podcast on YouTube. And so just really leaning more into the fact that I'm seeing better reach and better conversions off of YouTube, really leaning more into that, because I think with a little bit of effort, I could probably see a good bit of growth there. I also want to do an experiment. I'm calling it the Great Content Experiment of October 2024 over on my Instagram, because I just want to test out. I have not done anything like this in almost a year, probably, testing out different styles of content. I feel like the way that I'm using Instagram is changing. The things that people are liking on Instagram are changing. And so testing out different content formats and topics and CTAs and hooks and all the things, just to kind of see what works and then assess it later in Q4 to inform a content strategy going forward. Then on the Young & Co side, I really want to focus on the tax funnel, the tax marketing and bringing on clients just because of the time of year. I'm okay with the rate of clients that we're bringing on the monthly side. And so I don't feel like I need to prioritize that in terms of goals. So I'm really building out from scratch a whole tax marketing funnel, which is really fun. And my goal is to get 30 tax calls in Q4. I've already had 4 or 5. I have 1 signed proposal, 2 that I'm pretty sure are going to sign, and then 2 I'm not sure of. We'll kind of see. But my goal is to book 30 calls total, and then to put out some content. So putting out some blog content, email newsletter content, and then having some help delegating, repurposing that content into some high level, Instagram content, and just see what works, kind of putting all of that out there, like what sort of response do we get? And then the last goal is back to the drawing board with the tax strategy role, looking for also an admin role over there to help on just the client care side. Obviously I thought going into Q4 I was going to be training a tax strategist. I'm having to pivot and I'm back to taking on a good number of calls again. Honestly, something I still haven't figured out yet is my calendar, because I thought I was going to have more space on my calendar. Now I don't have as much, which is fine. It doesn't make me mad or anything. It doesn't make me frustrated. It just makes me like, okay, now I have to rethink my overall planning and how I slot these goals that I just said I wanted to do into my calendar. I had kind of put off hiring a client care person over there for a while. Now I think I'm going to have to reprioritize that, because I have to be able to take some things off my plate now in order to kind of step back into that role while we look for someone who can take on the tax strategy role. And then on the personal side, I just hired a therapist. My goal is to go to weekly therapy sessions and see if I can get to the root of my stress levels, nervous system, some other personal things that I have going on that I don't want to talk about in this video. I also want to try to put more of a focus on cardio. And so since that did not work out so well in Q3, what I'm doing is I'm going back to creating a minimum baseline goal of just doing 1 very short run every week, ideally tacked onto a personal training session. Since I'm already working out, I think it's going to be way easier for me to hit that goal if I don't try to add another workout day. And then the third personal goal is going back to decluttering. I have to figure out a routine. My goal is not to have the whole house decluttered. It's to have a routine in place that works for me to be able to spend some time doing things at home rather than feeling like I'm so caught up in work and I can't prioritize the home stuff. So that is it for my Q4 plan. I hope that it was helpful to see the behind the scenes of my own process, of my own planning process, and what's happening in my business and in my life. And so what you can take from this is to go through and do your own planning for Q4. I know that by the time this comes out, it'll be a week or 2 into October. There's still plenty of time. If you're like most business owners, you're probably winging it. So take the time to identify at least a couple of priorities and really tactical action steps that you can work on implementing and check off before we get to the end of the year. Because frankly, y'all, I think that what you do right now is setting yourself up for success in 2025. I just did a VIP day with my new private client yesterday, and we were talking about her Q4 and Q1 goals. And we really realized everything that we're working on is not going to bring her results until into Q1. So go ahead and plant those seeds now, because the sooner that you get ahead of it, the sooner you are going to see results. My last really quick ask is that if you are still listening to this and you have ever gotten any value out of the podcast or my YouTube channel, please make sure to leave me a review or subscribe wherever you are listening or watching this, because it helps me to reach more people. It helps me to keep sharing the, business knowledge with other business owners just like you. And it helps me to be able to bring on better guests and all of that and put out better content in the future. So literally take 5-10 seconds, leave me a 5-star review, maybe add some words about what you like, and make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening. So that's all for today, y'all. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you back next time.